Hello, and welcome to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and on today's episode, I have a wonderful, wonderful guest on. Jonah is on the show, Jonah Grinberg. He
Hello.
plays in a band called Numb Tongues. If you know Numb Tongues, they are awesome. I know Jonah
Rock and roll.
from, what was it, 3 years ago now, Jonah?
When we first met, yeah, I'd say, yeah, because
Must have been, right?
that was the boat.
Yeah, the boat show.
Yep.
Yeah, when you guys graciously accepted to play with a band that just started.
Yeah, I guess backstory for those that are listening right now.
Yeah.
So Taylor was in a band. Are you guys still together or like hiatus or what's up?
We're on a long extended hiatus.
I see. Okay, fair enough. To each their own. Back 3 years ago, Taylor and our mutual good friend Adriano.
Shout out Adriano.
Adriano is awesome. Haven't seen him in time.
No.
So these two were in a band back in the day called The Common Chase.
Correct.
And so it was 2018, and we had a buddy in our band who was basically just sort of acting as like a fill-in before we found an actual full guitar player.
Right.
And this was the last show we were doing with him. Basically, you guys had come seen us at the supermarket and asked us to be on the bill for your debut show.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Which is the first time I also played the boat. And in a weird turn of events, that unfortunately that venue is no longer around.
I know, so sad.
And hey, we filmed our first music video there too.
That's so, right, you guys did.
That's awesome. Yeah. So anyways, so yeah, that was the first time we met because I had known Adriano from when we were both in film school at York. And we basically both dropped out the same year, just wanting to go into music. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, there's the backstory, buddy.
There's the backstory.
Yeah. And I think Jonah and I, we've been in and out of each other's lives for the last couple of years. I've been to a couple of Numb Tongue shows, you come to my shows throughout the years. And here we are today, buddy.
Pretty much, it's crazy to think how many people I don't see anymore. Or like, it's weird because it was just a thing before this pandemic where like everybody I would see were at these shows, and then all these shows are not happening and all these people are not around.
Yeah, man. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I hope that we're getting back to a state again now where that can stop happening and we can start reconnecting again,
So I mean, about damn time.
Couldn't agree more, man. But yeah, so that's how Jonah and I know each other. And then Jonah reached out and he was like, "Hey, like, can I be on the pod?" And I was like, "Absolutely, buddy." So
I was meaning to ask, when is this podcast coming out?
Probably either next week or the week after.
Okay, so my band's new single will already be out at this point. So
there you go.
Yeah. My band has a new single. We're called Numb Tongues. It's called Automatically. I happen to really love it. Hope you do too.
Check it out. I got a sneak peek of it, so I'm not allowed to say anything, obviously, but it's pretty damn good. So,
well, thank you very much.
By the time the pod comes out, people will know already. But
yeah, fair enough.
But If you haven't heard of it, if you're living under a rock, go check out the new Numb Tongue song. It's awesome.
Yay.
But yeah, Jonah, let's get into today's topic, the mental health stuff. So thank you again for wanting to come on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just, figured need to start promoting and saw this podcast and seen a couple snippets here and there, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, might as well come on, chat with a guy I actually know about some cool stuff. So why not?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
So,
no worries.
for the listeners that don't really know who you are, just give us like a brief synopsis of who Jonah is. Like, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am 24. I am a singer-songwriter, and I'm the frontman for Numb Tongues. And yeah, that's the main trip of what I guess do. Um, we're very much a funky little outfit, very much on the spectrum of Talking Heads and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Um, I mean, that is mainly what I do as far as what I mainly like doing and
Sure.
try doing. Um,
Where
you
are you from?
know, well, born in Toronto.
Okay.
Um, always had a knack for performing and creating and writing in one form or the other. And when I was a kid, I did like some musical theater shows that got me like really into the whole notion of being on stage and performing, and then through that, um, learning how to write stuff, and learning how to sing. And so naturally, the two sort of came together, especially when I needed a good outlet to vent stuff.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, and then towards the end of high school was when Numb Tongues formed, and that was already like 2014, 2015.
Wow.
So yeah.
It's been a few years.
Yeah, it's been a few years and a few lineups before we got to where we were now.
Where you are now.
So yeah.
That tends to happen.
It does. Unfortunately, it's been the greatest one that I hope doesn't go away. You know how it is. So yeah, that's I don't know. Is that a good way of starting introducing?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like I said, it's you. So however way you want to describe yourself.
I mean, hey, fair enough. Uh, okay. So did I mention I work at a cannabis store?
I don't think so.
Maybe
No. Before we were rolling,
we started. Okay, yeah. So yes, I work at a cannabis store.
Cool.
I happen to enjoy my fair share of smoking the cannabis. It feels nice. What can I say? It definitely also have love of movies and
nice.
all that kind of jazz. I was working on film sets as a locations personnel a few months ago during the pandemic, and that's a tedious job to say the least. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I love the process of it, but only when you're really in the creative realm of it, because otherwise you're just doing a whole bunch of grunt work, and usually this stuff ends up shit anyways.
Oh, that's tough.
So, yeah, it's a thankless business. People think it's so glamorous,
right? Not the case.
Well, it's like it's think of it this way. A lot of times they have rented out these parking lots for days at a time, even for days when trucks aren't pulling up into there, which is eventually where they go to basically set up the base camp to be at the one location that they need their few seconds of shots. And that costs millions for these productions.
Wow.
Crazy. And then you add COVID testing on top of that.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, oh, so these are allowed to operate without social distancing, but God forbid we want to have a band practice.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can get into that, but let's
Yeah.
Let's leave that for another episode.
Sure, for sure. But it's like that's the kind of shit you start seeing more and more of, where it takes the fun out of all of it, to say the least.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Man. Well, there you go, everybody. That's Jonah. He's on the show. I think everyone knows a little bit more about you now.
Oh, they will know a lot more about me by the time this is done.
I'm sure.
Okay, yeah.
So, Jonah, how are you feeling today? I like to ask my guests before we get into like the nitty gritty of the mental health stuff. You know, how are they feeling today? Are you feeling comfortable?
Well, yeah. I mean, we said this before, but I'll say it now. Anything I don't want to share, I obviously won't share.
Yep, absolutely.
But you know, just had a nice little joint from some Hawaiian snow. So I'm feeling toasty.
That's good.
And yeah, you know, trying to feel a little just light, so I'm not having to overthink per se, especially like, you know, recording the video and audio for this. And
sure.
So yeah.
Awesome, man. So I'm just glad to know that you're feeling good and you're able to talk about this kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Jonah. So let's jump into it. So my first question here for you is, what mental health struggles or illnesses do you deal with, buddy?
Well, so I've got my little sort of combo where it's like a little bit of ADHD, a little bit of OCD, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of depression. Okay. That's the basic gist of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, without going into too much details, that's essentially the main gist. It's not that I would consider myself a sad or depressed person as opposed to a jaded person. Okay. In one sense or the other.
Yeah.
Just because I feel things really intensely, and you know, naturally you have these fears of the past and these fears of the future, and it's clouds in the way of just being able to stay in the moment.
Sure. And I feel like that's where the anxiety plays a big factor too, right? Of like not knowing what's going to happen in the future, and then obviously, you know, unresolved shit in the past.
Yeah. So that's essentially the main stuff that I'd be dealing with. Like I said, I don't consider myself like a depressed person. I'm lucky. I'm fortunate. So, you know, I just deal with whatever shtick in whatever way I can, which I don't always know which way that is, but you know, especially during this pandemic where it's been really easy to sort of fall back on just smoking weed and watching cartoons.
Yeah. Just kind of getting lost in the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I love that shit. Like those are vices in and of themselves.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's what we're working with today, eh?
Patient zero has got a cloud
ready to go.
Anxiety, OCD, and ADHD and depression. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, like I said, it could be worse. Could be definitely worse. So I try to remind myself of that, but I'm also very aware of reality for what it is.
Sure. So yeah, my next question would have been just like, have you been diagnosed by a professional at all with any of these?
Yeah.
So which ones are all of them, or?
Yeah, pretty much in one sense or the other.
Got it.
Yeah.
Was that by like a therapist or your doctor, or?
That was a therapist I used to see. Yeah, and that just sort of led to a period where I was on like pills for a bit, and that wasn't fun, and that didn't really help with the problem. That kind of just only made it worse.
It can be sometimes hit and miss, right?
Well, honestly, and you know, the thing about cannabis you come to realize is it's a catch-22, because on the one hand, it's the exact remedy that I needed that pills were not able to be.
Sure.
And on the other hand, you also have to realize how much you're smoking to the point that it prevents you from doing anything.
Right. It's like that delicate balancing act, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so
yeah.
Jonah, all right, so you got diagnosed with all those things. So when did you get diagnosed with all these illnesses, buddy?
High school, early high school.
So like grade 9, grade 10?
Well, yeah. Well, so I mean, grade 9 was like my first real bout with like any kind of depressive symptoms. And then, so by the time I was in grade 10, I went to see this therapist who, in the long run, was not the wisest decision to send me to him, for various reasons. But basically, that's where it like came to the surface of like, oh, you've actually just been dealing with like ADHD and OCD, and the OCD is basically just the anxiety sort of manifested into like the most organized paranoid type of thoughts that just protrude you from doing whatever you can. Depression's just the main sadness based on whatever shit you've dealt with, and then
Right.
amplified more on a visceral level.
Right.
Just, yeah.
Okay. So my next question for you, Jonah, is what has your experience been like, or your perspective of dealing with your mental health? And the way I like to interpret this for the guests is just like, imagine like a timeline from like maybe I don't know how deep you want to go, Jonah, but like to like when some of the trauma started happening in your life to develop these mental health illnesses, like when did you first started noticing these things in yourself, and then walk me through the diagnosis, and then just throughout the years, like just talk about what your experience has been like dealing with your mental health.
So I mean, I think for me, when it really came down to was, so I'll backtrack a bit here.
Yeah.
So I'll just say for the record here for those listening, I have a real bone to pick with religion.
Okay.
And so I've come to accept for my own sake that for me, believing in a God doesn't do it for me. That if you want to, hey, go nuts, do whatever makes you happy.
Sure.
But the idea of following any kind of religion and following a God, just it only served to cause more sadness in me. So at a certain point, I realized separating myself was a lot better. And that was also from growing up with a lot more religious education growing up, where it just sort of got shoved down your throat.
Right. Did you go to a Catholic school, Jonah?
Hebrew.
Yeah.
So like when I see enough shit about, the Middle East, and I don't want to go into the fucking Middle East right now, but it definitely just sparks that thing of like, really, people are just kind of being babies at the end of the day, and enough people need to chill the fuck out on both sides.
Absolutely.
So okay, so basically, I realized at a certain point, third grade was the first time I really started to notice a lot more of like the shit that was going on. My grandfather had died that year, and I was at a new school, and that was really weird. And I don't think I ever fully got over that when I was like there.
Yeah.
Sixth grade was when my parents divorced.
Mm.
And then fast forward to high school.
Yeah.
my mom got cancer the first time in 9th grade.
Oh my goodness.
And then she got it again in the 12th grade.
Ugh.
So I remember like sort of lining up those dots in a weird way. And it was just like, and it's like I was paranoid that I might have been almost overthinking that this might have all been related somehow. But it was also just like felt very weird that this was just sort of happening at these different points. So yeah, I mean, and in between there was enough shit, I'll just call it, you know.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I don't want to say anything here that makes it seem like I had any kind of terrible childhood by any stretch of the imagination, because it's really fucking great. Like my mom's alive and kicking it, you know.
Well,
Like
I was about to ask you, like, is she still with us?
oh,
So
she's I mean, she's great. She's awesome.
That's amazing to hear. I'm happy that she's still with us.
100%. And it definitely puts a lot into perspective when
absolutely
you see all that shit going on around you. So I mean, yeah, it's like that was the kind of shit that I would deal with and didn't really tell people about, or didn't really have people to talk about it around.
Right.
I mean, I definitely had a couple people here and there, but no one I talk to right now, at least.
Sure.
So yeah, those were definitely the moments that really like sort of amplified what all this I've been dealing with since.
Got it. So like these like big like pinpoint traumatic things that happened to you in your life at an early age.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like with your grandfather passing away when you're really young and not knowing how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then you touched upon the religious thing, like not identifying with that anymore, and then wanting to get out of it.
Yeah.
Then you know, your parents divorcing in high school. You said early high school.
No, like early middle school.
Early middle school. Wow. So
yeah.
That's like what, 12 years old.
Yeah, is basically. And so I mean, it's just like it's these kind of things that's just sort of shape the way you look at things, whether you mean them to or not.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like your brain's way of dealing with the trauma.
Pretty much.
You know, like it's just that imbalance of chemicals in your brain, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's funny. Like I talk to my therapist regularly, and you know, we talk about all this kind of stuff, obviously, like mental health wise. And she was saying that like the brain has a interesting way of dealing with trauma like that. If you don't have the proper outlet to deal with it, like you and I both, sounds like we didn't have the right outlet at the time that this shit was happening to us, right?
100%.
So our brain kind of has to like take over, and like it kind of creates these illnesses, if you will, to kind of cope with it in a way.
Sure.
You know, especially because you said you have OCD, right? I have OCD as well. So
because
it's like a control thing.
It's like the thought loops that your brain puts itself in almost to act as like an effective mechanism.
Mm-hmm. It's like fight or flight mode, right? It's like survival.
Yeah.
We gotta push through this.
Pretty much. Yeah. That's definitely the gist of it. In one sense or the other. So yeah.
Interesting, man. So I'm sorry to hear that all that happened to you, but
like I said,
it is what it is, right?
It is what it is, and I could have it 1,000 times worse. You know, so I mean, I'm just it is what it is, like you said. So yeah.
How does the I'm just curious, Jonah, how does the anxiety what does that look like to you?
I mean, it looks like multiple things to me.
Yeah.
So like it looks like, you know, perfectionism in my art, preventing me from actually doing something because I'm worried it won't be good.
Right.
It manifests itself in social situations where there's enough people I know where I just don't want to be around them, and there's nothing that can be convinced of me to be around them at this point.
Wow. So like almost like social anxiety?
Yeah, but it's more selective. It's more like there's a couple groups who I won't mention here that I'm just like,
Yep.
I just can't be around them.
Got it.
But other people, I'm a lot more comfortable.
You're good.
Around. Yeah, because it's just like I go into this like sort of means of not having to talk to those people, and I don't owe them a reason at this point.
No, that's fine.
So yeah. I mean, it also manifests itself in me like worrying about my weight and then thinking it's not going to be worth it or whatever. And then just by default, smoking as much weed and eating as much and just watching as many cartoons or TV shows or movies that are on my list just to get them off my list. That's another thing too. I have so many fucking lists of just things that I need to do and albums I need to listen to and movies I need to watch and artists I need to. Yeah. So, I mean, like I list so much of shit and it's like crazy how I'm even able to.
Is that partly like an ADHD thing as well, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's more like just a means of not wanting to forget anything and wanting to, more the fear that I'll forget something, if anything.
Like, goes back to the anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said you had ADHD as well, right, Jonah?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
I mean, it means whatever. It means like there's so many things that my mind is thinking of at a different point that it's hard to relinquish the chatter. That's mainly what it looks like to me. If anything, what it really looks like is if I was in school right now and just bored out of my fucking mind and not wanting to pay attention because I didn't see, like, if I give a shit about something, I've come to realize like I'll focus all my energy into it, and when I don't, it's really hard to convince
just gone.
So that's why school was not the best time, because enough of the shit I was doing was like fucking boring and
like not engaging enough for you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny that like, and I mean, I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, but like the more and more I talk to people that have it, the more I start to realize that maybe I do. And it seems like some people have like selective focus in terms of their ADHD, like, because I feel like everyone just kind of like throws this term of ADHD out there. It's just
that's
being distracted, right? Like it's just you're just distracted. It's like, oh, you have ADHD, you can't focus on anything. But it's like, no, I know the people that have ADHD that can, like you, Jonah, like can focus on one thing if they're really passionate about it. But then anything outside of that is just it's just scatterbrain, right? Like you can't focus on it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it just, again, it is what it is. It's more just like my mind is almost like, well, it's funny. So my parents told me this, I couldn't speak till I was 4 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I could read books fully and understand them cover to cover. So basically what they found out was at a certain point that my mind was going so fast that it could understand words, but my mouth couldn't actually produce those sounds.
Crazy.
So yeah. So going back to the whole ADHD thing, it's like I can think of so many different things going on simultaneously on different layers at the exact same time.
Whoa. Sounds like a superpower.
It is, but it's more so I need some plants to be able to like calm it down.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then so like the last one was depression, right? You said?
I mean, yeah, but again, I'm not a depressed person. I've had bouts.
You've had like bouts of
like enough definite times where I'm just like really super, super depressed, where it just certainly doesn't feel like there's any kind of end in sight. And in a weird way, it's not like there is. It's just more like you certainly learn to live with whatever stuff ends up happening, I guess. I don't know. But it's like, when people die or you go through shitty things with either friends or family, and it's hard to get out of it.
It's like when those big traumas hit, right?
Well, yeah, it's like you're just sort of sitting in it, and you don't really have that outlet to actually express it. And even therapy, I honestly, like, I'll say this, like, and to each their own, because I mean, I still speak to somebody here and there, but it's also a lot more tailored to the type of shit I would be going through at this point, where I find, like, more often than not, therapy almost becomes like you're kind of like a guinea pig in like a lab. And like, especially if you're dealing with somebody who's more concerned with just pushing the pills instead of dealing with an individual's needs. So I've been really skeptical of that aspect of it. And certainly I know people who they go in therapy and it solves their problems and it's great. For me, it was just never able to fully do that. So I mean, I'm more so the guy who's just been able to deal with whatever type of shit, but never really fully had coping mechanisms. I just sort of keep on going on as is.
Right. I think it's a matter of like you said, you're not going to click with everybody, right? Like, I'm not trying to like take away from what you're saying about therapy, because I'm a big believer of therapy, and most people.
Well, I mean, if it works for you, obviously, it
exactly
all the fucking power to you.
And it might not be the answer for everybody, right? Or it might not be the right therapist that you were involved with.
Right? Yeah, well, that's
a whole other thing.
Sure, that's a whole other episode. But you know, I mean, it definitely put a damper on things, but it also, it started to see the whole thing for what it was. And honestly, for me, it's crazy when I think about how there was such a stigma for cannabis way back in the day, and how it was still such a like, it's illegal and you're becoming dumber, and reefer madness and half baked, and now there's cannabis stores up the wazoo everywhere. and it's like, oh, now because the government can get involved, it's finally a good thing.
It's normalized again.
Right. So I mean, it's just so funny. If you would have told my parents when they were scolding me for smoking way back when that I'd be working at a cannabis store, like, because it's like,
the tables have turned.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, exactly.
Yeah, man. Okay, Jonah, so that leads me into my my next segment. And again, like we said from the top of the episode, like, you don't have to go too deep if you don't want to. It's your episode. You can elaborate on anything you want.
Cool.
But I like to call this segment the real reels.
The real reels.
Yeah, the real reels.
Okay.
So this is kind of like the segment where I like to break down some barriers,
Okay.
I feel like mental health, it's getting more talked about in today's world, but I still feel like there's a lot of climbing to be done still with that mountain.
Sure.
And this segment's just kind of like stuff that people are not scared to talk about, but don't talk about it in a normal conversation, let's say.
Okay.
But like I said, go as deep as you want. I'm not going to pressure you, but like, I'm just trying to break the stigma of some of the things that people are, whether it's taboo or whether it's not normalized or whatever. I'm just trying to break those barriers down and just have an open conversation and make it more normalized. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So basically, the question in the real reels is just, what are some of the hardest moments you've had to deal with? Like some of the most negative aspects of the mental health, Jonah?
I think more so to do with, well, this is a good thing and a bad thing. I find my tolerance for like bullshit and small talk is like very, very, very low.
Okay.
And I'm very aware of the fact that, humans are obviously a case by case basis, no question. but I think also, but I think there's sometimes, I think it it serves people a lot easier to follow trends or be with certain people, not really, almost like fear that people, if you don't agree with each other, are going to be sort of like left out of a herd of some kind.
I see.
I often find it hard to like have that balance between like, you know, social interactions and actually like enjoying the company of people I'm around. Like if I enjoy your company, usually it's because we chill often and like enjoy the same kind of things. Sure. And for me, it's very hard to find people who either vibe with or enjoy the same kind of things that I do, or that I don't feel like I have to change what I'm thinking or saying to try to appease that person.
Right.
I have a difficult time with all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. And is that stemmed out of your mental health, like the stuff that you have to deal with, like the ADHD, the anxiety, the depression?
It's more just to do with, I don't know, it is what it is. I'm certainly not like, I mean, look, I think I'm the most awkward person I know only by virtue of me being in my own skin. Sure. If I feel comfortable, it's usually because there's not so much mental chatter going on and I'm not overanalyzing every single thing that's going on. I can just sort of just be in that moment. Right. It's very hard for me to just be in a moment more often than not.
Interesting. So those are kind of like the hard moments for you to deal with in terms of the mental health illnesses that you battle, is like being present and enjoying the moment. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, in one sense or the other, for sure.
Sure. Is there any other hard times in your life that you can pinpoint? I know you've talked about a few of them, but
yeah, I mean, just I would say, you know, I would honestly say any of the moments that I wish I could just go back and fix are the ones that, in my sense, I sort of look at it now and I'm almost like wanting to live my life to make up for those moments in a weird way. Like it's almost as if like anything I do now going forward is to like make up for the first 18 years.
Interesting.
And not let it define me, but rather let it be a catalyst for something even greater long term.
Right.
Because otherwise it's like this has, like, you need something to look forward to and you need a means of actually wanting to do something with your life. Otherwise life is inherently meaningless
to an extent. Yep.
Yeah, right. So it's like basically at this point, anything I do is just for my own sake and well-being and happiness. And usually, hey, I mean, that involves sometimes usually not being around a whole lot of people or certain people that I just don't want to be around in general. Even psychedelic drugs, like I love doing psychedelic drugs, you know. I find if we want to talk about like how those have improved my mental health, like words can't even begin to describe.
There's a segment coming up next that we can discuss it for sure.
Okay, awesome, cool. Because yeah, I mean, I look at those trips that I've done, and I can't do them around people unless it's really specifically stated that it's like that. As long as I can mentally prepare myself for whoever would be there ahead of time for whatever purpose they have being there, then I can at least ground myself in knowing what I can and can't control.
Right.
Because otherwise, if there's people around and I can't understand the energy, and then I'm thinking things that aren't actually
just,
there. Yeah, and then it just defeats the whole purpose of why you're trying to do them in the first place, and they just feel so good. So yeah.
Absolutely, man. I wanted to touch on the thing you said earlier before we move forward, Jonah. Are you able, and like, I don't want to push you if you don't want to talk about it, but are you able to discuss or elaborate a bit further the things that you want to fix from the past? Is there anything that comes up to mind that are a couple of things that...
Not honestly, man, nothing that I would want to discuss here, but just know, like, as far as that is concerned, that's more to do with just like that's more to do with, think of whatever worst possible shit that you would fear to happen again.
Yeah,
is the type of shit that,
like, personal struggles
or people you had to deal with, and events where it no longer applies, but it also
still
is very
you.
Much, it's more the catalyst to not want to end up in those situations or affect people like that.
Got it.
That's fair.
So
yeah,
just curious.
No, and hey, it's totally allowed to ask. I also don't want to like hurt whoever by,
of course,
saying something and then them finding out. So
yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Jonah, I have one last question for the reels. And we talked about some pinpoint trauma in your life in the previous section, and you just discussed how you want to live your life better and not make the same mistakes that you made in the past. Was there ever a moment, Jonah? I know, like, you said you're not that much of a depressed person, but you have your moments of depression, and anxiety can push you to the brink too, and ADHD, I'm sure, probably has a factor in OCD. Was there ever a moment where, and forgive me if I'm being too forward with this question, but was there ever any suicidal thoughts or anything like that you dealt with in some of these dark moments in your life? And you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Well, so I mean, look, I'm not. I can say it's not to say there haven't been thoughts over whatever period of time.
Yeah,
the mind can do crazy things, and
absolutely.
Ultimately, like, I'm fortunate it's never ever got into such a place. Even despite how dark my mind can go, and it can go pretty dark to say the least. But
yeah,
it's, I guess for me, the if I didn't have something to look forward to, I would have those thoughts on a daily basis.
Wow. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, I think, for me, was like, always, at least I always had performing. I had creating art. I had those things to be able to look forward to, in order to actually enjoy the things I actually like doing with my life. I remember when Cornell killed himself.
Yeah, tragic.
Dude, that hit like a ton of bricks, because it's almost, it's one of those things, you look at a guy and you think he's doing so well, and he's done all this amazing music, and then you realize he's not as happy as you may think he is. So that put it into certainly a perspective for me, because ideally I would have loved to be in Cornell's shoes.
I think anybody would.
Right?
The same thing you say about Chester too.
Sure. No kidding. No kidding. So yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I have at least had things I enjoy and things I can look forward to, and also things to distract me from what might be going on. I think people don't realize just how valuable it was, for those who might have been in a worse situation, to just be able to turn their mind off and watch an infinite amount of whatever shows Netflix might have to offer. Now, granted, that's also a burden of choice in and of itself, and certainly a sense of anxiety for me, because I mean, I have enough things that I want to watch, and I'm like, I'm gonna die before I get to listen to this or see all these things. Yeah, for sure. And that's it. I want to be able to experience all of that as possible. And I think for me, the main fear comes in not being able to do what I want to with my life, or that I won't be worth anything in the end. I went skydiving last year.
Whoa.
Talk about a life affirming moment.
I can imagine.
So crazy. Yeah, and that's the thing. I've come to realize that you know, things like, so I came to realize pretty recently, I'm kind of a bit of an adrenaline junkie in one sense or the other. Like, you know, I love me my psychedelic drugs. I love skydiving.
Like the thrill
and sex and playing concerts and just these feelings that make you feel like you're on the edge of your own body, for that matter. Without going into like hard drugs, but the psychedelic drugs, fucking amazing.
That's okay.
But basically, yes. So I mean, what I came to realize was the feeling I get from playing shows in front of a crowd of people. There's so much nothing like it, to the point that I had to smoke DMT and go skydiving in order to get anywhere near close to that feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, man. That's a great point, though. Like, to go back to what my original question was, it's just like, so you've had the thoughts, but like there was always a positive outlet for you to look forward to and keep pushing forward and not fall too heavy in those thoughts.
Well, granted, there wasn't always the positive outlet until there was. And then finally, when there was, it finally gave a reason to do the things you do. Now, granted, I mean, when you're starting out in music and you're playing to all these empty rooms, it's like,
it's challenging.
Even now, it's like knowing it's that anxiety of how many people are going to give a shit, or how many people are going to watch, or how many people, you know? So, I mean, it's definitely always there, but I mean, I think back to the last show we played, which was like November 2019. And it's like, yeah, right. But it's like, I remember that show so fucking vividly, and remembering how good it felt to be there. And it's like, oh yeah, that's why
that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Okay, Jonah. So the last thing before we move on to the next segment. Okay. So, you discussed the thoughts of suicide were not always there, but they were there. But then you never like pursued the actual action itself, which is good. Yeah. But was there any like negative vices that you found yourself doing in those hard moments in your life? Was there any?
I don't know. I think I was just always, I think by virtue of whoever I was around at that point, I was just like, angry and hormonal and misplacing my energy. And I wasn't as anywhere near in control when it comes to any kind of substances as I was, as certainly as I am now. So, I mean, yeah, I didn't really know how to deal with anything of any kind of degree, really. And then the pills, then when I was on those at the time, did not help at all. So it was more just a process of like weaning away the people and the things you don't like, and sort of getting to the root of actually what you do. Yeah, I mean,
okay, so there was a couple of crutches, but nothing like too severe.
Yeah, I mean, like I could have become like a full-blown alcoholic, or I could have like just been so angry I smashed a bunch of windows.
Yeah, like anger issues or something.
Yeah, like, but it never got to that extent.
Level.
You know, it's certainly wasn't anywhere near as in control when it came to cannabis.
Sure.
I was never a heavy drinker. I never got into hard drugs.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, I'm at least fortunate in that aspect, that anytime a vice has been presented to me, I can use it for its good. Then it's just a matter of not abusing it so that it's the only way that it makes you happy.
Right. Exactly. That's the key, man. A lot of people can't draw that line in the sand, unfortunately.
Yes. And
It's
I'm
very
very
hard.
fortunate. I'm very fortunate I was able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, man. Okay, so our next segment, Jonah, is the rainbow segment.
The rainbow segment.
Yes, this is kind of touching upon what you were talking about earlier that you wanted to hold on to this segment. It's just like coming out of the dark periods of your life now, because you said you're doing a lot of you know, a lot better. You said you were doing it, like you have a bit more control over things, and like seems like your life's a bit more adjusted than it was, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think anybody, I still have my fears and anxieties as much as the next guy now, especially in trying to figure out how I'm going to pull things off. But I mean, yeah, it's like I said, could be 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. So my question for you, Jonah, is just, are there any positive things that you've discovered or still finding out about dealing with your mental health? Like coming out of the
psychedelic drugs.
Right. You were saying that.
Well, so yeah, I mean, look, I don't encourage people to use it as their sole form of therapy or expect that they're just suddenly going to be happy forever after doing them. But I have found that my experiences on these amazing psychedelics give me a better vision for what I want.
And are you microdosing, Jonah?
No, I do pretty heavy doses.
Got it.
So last time I did shrooms, I did like a tea of 10 grams.
Oh my goodness.
It's
a strong tea.
Yeah. The last time I did acid, I went on a walk for 4 tabs. DMT, I bring that up and not a lot of people still don't even know what that is. And it just cranks your third eye so wide open that you just start experiencing everything in the most hyper realistic art, and you feel like you're living and dying and everything and nothing at the same time.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it's like you realize in the grand scheme of things you don't know jack shit, but like you're willing to become the most ultimate version of who you want to become.
Sure. And you found that that's helping you in coping or dealing with the mental health stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, like when you go online, right, and you see all these political posts on social media from like both sides of the spectrum, and it just feels like people arguing and just at each other's throats, and it really helps me because it grounds me in sort of like my own neutral center of just speaking from my own gut and realizing what makes common sense to me instead of letting other people's things just sort of bring you down. Right. Because then nobody wins at the end of it.
Right. Okay, man. So, have you found any constructive ways? I mean, you just talked about the psychedelic drugs, which I'm glad are helping you get through that stuff and have better control and stuff and help center you. But outside of that, are there any other constructive ways or solutions that have helped you with dealing with mental health these days?
Well, I'll say, like, I wish I stuck to a better routine, more consistent of this, but certainly working out and meditating,
those are 2 big
definitely
ones.
Definitely go a long way.
Absolutely.
And I'm very prone of slipping into a spell of not working out for a good period of time, or even not meditating for a good period of time. And it is what it is, because I wish I could control that much more. Often my mind sort of becomes distracted on a number of things when I first get up by virtue of shit anyways. But I mean, I do believe that, you know, working out and meditating are very good for just reducing the chatter that goes on
inside the noggin.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I definitely wish I was more consistent, but
That's okay.
definitely an advocate.
It's tough to put it in practice sometimes, right, Jonah? But like, you just gotta push yourself to do it a bit more. That's all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Make it a regular habit, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. And I think I'd throw music up there too as a big one for you.
Oh, well, I mean, that's just the outlet of outlets. And then it goes into this cycle again where I'm beating myself up for not being creative enough, but then also realizing you can't force it and trying to, like, you know, balance that so I can actually constantly enjoy the process, because you know how it is. It's like you have so many different mini ideas that have yet to find a home, and then once you found the home for it, it's like, there, it was there all along.
Eureka.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling is the best.
It is. And then it's the worst when you have all these unfinished ideas.
Yeah, the torment.
Yeah.
But I think the payoff is worth it though.
I mean, yeah, but it's never enough of a payoff because there's always another song to finish, right?
Just pacing yourself is the key, I think.
Yeah, fair.
And being able to enjoy what you've accomplished at the moment, right?
I mean, fair. Granted, I look at a guy like David Bowie and I think, oh, he did how much different music and how many different albums? Like, wouldn't that be nice?
Right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult these days to accomplish what he accomplished back then, but
oh yeah, no fucking kidding. People still bought albums back then.
Imagine a world where that was a thing, right? Still.
Yeah.
Oh man, but I can attest to Jonah with music, because I mean, if anybody listening to the pod right now has seen Numb Tongues play live, I mean, this guy comes to life on stage, man. Like, he is such a cool person to watch on stage, and like, you can really tell he really enjoys what he does up there. And
yeah,
I can tell this is like such a good outlet for you, and I can tell it helps you a lot in your life push through some shitty things.
It definitely does, and you're very receptive to that, and I appreciate it, because it's like you don't realize it until it's gone, and it's just that thing where it's sort of, you know, it feels comfortable. It's like I find so many people are just so self-conscious going on stage, and they're so nervous because of how many people are looking at them, and that's so flip for me, because I just go on stage and I just want to do whatever the fuck I want, and I don't care how many people are in the room.
Yeah, man.
And I mean, hey, that's where the musical theater really helps in the long run, just being able to develop that confidence to just want to be on stage.
Yes, just get up there and do the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And not worry about anything else, you know?
Yeah, completely.
Everything else is a side effect, and like, you're just living in the moment.
Yeah,
and nothing else matters, which is like the coolest feeling in the world, man.
It's the greatest, especially when you got like the crowd chanting along and cheering and dancing and singing along and moshing, dude. And it's
I can't wait to see you guys play again, man. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, trust, I can't wait for that too, because
I can imagine.
Way too fucking long.
Buddy, man, we got to play a show together, dude.
Yeah, we should definitely make that shit happen. Fucking Christ, the amount of people who I've still yet to play shows with. And you know, it's crazy because we wanted to start touring in 2020, and then right. Yeah. So like, we still like have enough cities on our bucket list that we're just like, we
got to go.
Like, we have to.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, man. You're gonna manifest it into reality.
Okay, I like hearing this. This is good.
Okay, Jonah, I think that's all I've got for you today, buddy. So
wow, so time really did fly.
Time flies, man. I think we're about almost an hour.
All right, we done good. We did
really good, man.
Yeah.
I just like to say at the end, any final thoughts or feelings you want to express to the listeners, Jonah? It could be like a message of hope, or any advice for people dealing with similar issues as yourself.
Well, I'll do two things. One, One, listen to the new Numb Tongues single
Oh,
automatically
that's the next part. Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Plugs are at the end. Don't worry.
Okay, so this guy's got a plan.
I got you.
All right, love it. I don't know, man. Who am I to give advice to people? All I can say is, all I can really say is it, you know, life's too short and there's a bit too much sadness in the world, and death is great because it's peaceful, but it also sucks because you're not here.
Wow, profound words from Jonah.
Right.
So what you're saying is just live in the moment then, or enjoy.
Hey, I'm trying.
I'm paraphrasing from it.
Yes, yeah.
But I think,
look, yeah, I'm a very philosophical person in the idea of like death just being so peaceful, of like not having to deal with all this bullshit, but at the same time dying sucks.
Yeah, because you're not here anymore to experience anything at all.
So there you go.
Yeah, so be here, try to be present as much as you can be, and if you love music, do music. Or whatever makes you happy.
That's very fair. Yes, I'm a very big advocate. That's actually a good point to end on. I'm a huge advocate on the idea of art being a positive outlet for those who are struggling. Probably the one good thing in this world. If this world is a piece of shit, the one good thing we have from it is all the cool art. Even the art I hate. I hate a lot of art, but there's also a lot of art I really, really love, and that's what makes it worth it.
Absolutely, buddy.
So yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Jonah. All right, man. Now's the time to plug, buddy. You got anything coming up? Let the people know what's going on in your life, buddy.
All right. New Numb Tongues single, automatically on all streaming platforms.
Automatically.
This is probably one of my favorite songs I've ever written, and it was interesting for us too, because this was the first time that we finished a song with everybody sending files that they each recorded at home before we'd ever gotten in the same room to even play it together for the first time.
Yeah, I feel like that's happening to a lot of people in this time right now, Jonah.
Yeah, it's we certainly wouldn't have even thought to do this before then. But by virtue of what was going on, it just made all the sense and really helped expand our sound. And I'm really stoked for people to hear what we've been up to and the wacky directions we could possibly be going in.
Dude, I'm so excited for you guys. I can't wait for the single to drop. I'll definitely spread the word, obviously.
Thank you.
Of course, man.
Yeah, well, hey, it's been fun. And this has been nice.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Jonah. It means a lot.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, buddy. And I feel like the listeners, I hope, can get something out of this for themselves.
Hopefully.
And yeah, man, just thank you for being here and thank you for sharing this time with me.
Likewise.
Cool, man. All right, guys. So if you like what you heard, give it a follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Give it a like, give it a follow. If you really like it, give it a review. That helps the algorithm.
Hey.
Jonah can attest to that. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. I always like to end the podcast just saying, drink some water, take a deep breath. If you meditate, do some meditation today. Go outside for a walk, get some fresh air. Wear your mask, please. Get vaccinated if you can. Go to a fucking concert. What concert tour thing?
For fuck's sake.
You know what I mean? Like, please help out the music community. Like, we got devastated in this pandemic. So,
and it actually makes humans feel good. Politicians couldn't give a shit, but you're a human and you have a heart, I'd like to think. So if you like feeling good, go to a fucking concert.
Yes. I've already bought like 3 concert tickets for December.
Oh, good for you.
So I'm going to 3 shows in like 2 weeks in December.
Which ones?
I'm going to Silverstein.
Oh, yeah?
City and Color and this band called the Aces.
There you go.
Yeah, man. So I'm doing my part.
Good on you.
Doing my part, and I'm probably gonna play a show soon too, like whenever I'm allowed to book again. So
Yeah, I feel that.
you know what I mean. So
It's literally just a waiting game at this point. So
I mean, I heard
yeah,
that Birds of Bellwoods are playing like 3 weeks from now,
true.
which is crazy at the Horseshoe. I think
I'm not counting virtual concerts.
this is a real life concert.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they're doing the Horseshoe like the 23rd, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that now.
Right? Like I'm like, how?
How? Unless they're doing the drive-in show. And the Horseshoe Tavern is like acting as a sponsor, because I know that's what they were doing. That's the only logical.
That's what I'm saying. Like
I have at this point.
I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. I suppose.
Yeah, and hopefully we're on a stage sooner than later. Anyways,
buddy. Thank you so much for being here, Jonah. Take care, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Alrighty.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Peace out.